Too late now.
All right.
Hey, y'all. We going live and in living color once again for our Heels of Time podcast. Sorry, we're running crazy late today. I had some family stuff to take care of. Sorry. It was good stuff. It was Labor Day, so you know.
You are listening to the smooth voice of my host, Theo.
Oh, yeah. I should probably introduce myself. I'm Theo. This is Derek. We're your hosts for today's podcast of The Heels of Time, Episode 6. So, we have a special event for you today.
Oh, yeah.
It is our first delve into a female character, which are extremely prevalent in Robert Jordan's literature.
That's
Would you say that, Derek?
Oh, for sure.
And we're going to go for probably one of the most badass sons of bitches on the planet of Rand. Her name is none other than Moiraine Sedai.
Hell yeah.
She is one badass Sedai.
Shut your mouth.
What? All right, so our episode today is actually going to look at Moiraine, and in her comparison to a character that is, I think, pretty beloved in science fiction / fantasy. Has been in a few movies, been in some of the biggest literature to ever hit from the 1920s, I believe. And he's a wizard. Everybody's favorite dude, Gandalf.
Now hold up, my compadre.
What up?
You said we're doing Moiraine the first female on
Correct.
the show, right?
I did.
But then you just said Gandalf is a dude.
He's a dude.
So obviously they're not the same character, right?
Correct. Obviously. In terms of gender. So, I don't care about gender, do you?
No, not as far as this. No, not like this.
So, exactly. And the whole thing that we're trying to say is, does Robert Jordan just take little snippets from characters here, there, and everywhere, doesn't really matter where, and combine them into one of his own literary characters, rather. So, in this case, sure, Gandalf's a male wizard dude, and Moiraine does some wizardy stuff.
Yeah.
You could say. So,
for sure.
I think it's not that far of a reach.
Well, let's see what you've divined from Gandalf that might be similar to Moiraine, and we'll see if maybe there's a there there.
What the hell? We'll see what this comes around. All right,
All right, let's go for it.
Right. So Gandalf himself, as you see, he's as Gandalf the Grey.
All right.
That's a very big delineation there. Grey. He I mean, obviously he's tall. You know, got the long beard. Grey. Kind of I don't say drab looking, but he doesn't dress like totally out there. He's not very doesn't have like a lot of yellow or anything on there.
Not Mr. Fashion.
No, he's like gray bluish. I would say, and he likes to run around and just adventure. So he's not what we've seen in like the movie's perspective, at least from Lord of the Rings trilogy. I wouldn't say the original 3. Yeah, he's with the hobbits and there's the Fellowship of the Ring, blah blah blah. He actually goes back way beyond that. We're not really gonna delve into like his super history because we'd be here forever with that. Because there's been a lot of literature that Tolkien wrote, and he's probably as robust as Robert Jordan. So
we're not gonna go into the Silmarillion? Oh no.
Yeah, no. So on that note, no, he's not. We're not. So we're going to take little snippets of him around. He, as a gray dude, he's kind of jokey. He's down to earth. He likes to run around with the hobbits. Likes to entertain them. He comes around, every few years. Does his fireworks show. That's actually legit. It wasn't just in the movies. It was in the book too.
Right.
he likes to have, he's like joyous, jokey, like has like little pipe, does a smoky thing, but he does lead the Fellowship of the Ring. That's kind of how we're gonna take him right here.
Okay.
So he does lead the heroes to Khazad Dûm, also known as the Mines of Moria.
All right. Mines of Moria.
Yeah, interesting spelling there as well.
All right.
So this Moria. Interesting. As a shortcut. Cool thing is, this place was like incredible, both in literature and in the movie personally. So it was a dwarven realm. They carved in the mountains, made this huge pimp city, mining the ore. Dwarves being dwarves, they did get a little greedy.
So this is a big old city.
Yeah, huge. And I mean, the mountain's like gargantuan, and they carved it out because they're dwarves and they're awesome at carving and mining. So, but yeah, there's a lot of gold. I don't say gold, but a lot of treasures down there. But you know what they say, power is money, but absolute power corrupts. Kind of the same thing with greed. They got a little greedy, so they kept digging and digging and digging. So eventually they actually dug kind of far down, which is fine, but they released the dragon Balrog, or the demon Balrog. So by doing that, they corrupted their city, and basically, yeah, they're gone now.
Oh, that's crazy.
They didn't really know that at the time. They're like, man, we gotta get this shortcut. We gotta like blast out this ring. So, well, let's figure out how to open this up. They open it up, go in, and all of a sudden they make a little noise, and boom, there we go. As they're running, you shall not pass. Bam! Hints that super magic, and saves the team, but he basically falls to his death.
Oh, man.
So we think. And all of a sudden in the next movie, this crazy son of a gun comes out, all white. And bam, we got Gandalf the White. Now instead of the gray super garb, he's like white as almost like an angelic figure. He's like super white, glowing, just badass. Like, but he doesn't care anymore. He's no longer like the jokey, down to earth, hop along. Yeehaw, let me shoot this little firework just for some show. No, he's like, we have a mission. Go to point A, go to point B. We whoop that ass. Next. Okay, next.
So he's totally changed.
Next. Yes. He's like, man, Hobbit, I can't believe you did that crap. You looked into the eye of Sauron, you dumbass. And he's like literally yelling at him, which is kind of not quite Gandalf the Grey mentality. Yeah, in the meantime, he was betrayed by a friend, Sauron. He had to like beat him down too. He didn't care at that point because it was kind of a person in his way, and his main focus was straight up
Get things done.
Yeah, get it done. So he obviously, I told you, he's got a staff. Obviously, mages have their staffs. Course. He also carries a sword, which is kind of unusual because almost like a battle mage, I guess you could say.
Oh, sure.
So it's a stinger sword. Lights up when the goblins are near, which is kind of cool. So he kind of knows what's going on. But obviously his main number one was obviously the staff.
Okay.
He can when he wants to, he can actually make himself glower. So he gets like super huge. Like, I mean, for little hobbits, I mean, he looked really huge anyway. But he actually like warp, I don't say time and space, but he like warped space to make himself even look bigger, and his voice got booming like. Boom.
Oh wow!
Even though Yoda may have been right next to me, he was just talking normal. It was booming voice. So one of his favorite people are the hobbits. He loved them. He calls the hobbits his children. So he thinks they're kind of cool. And obviously he sacrifice himself. And he shows up a lot of times when he's in one really big need, or there's just trouble around. He just magically, go figure, magically
right.
appears right at the right time, at the right place.
So it almost looks like he's like a troublemaker, like he's stirring up stuff, but he's really just kind of showing up in the nick of time.
You could kind of say that, but at the same time, when things are looking really dim and really dark, he just also shows up to be victorious. So, in the movie when Gondor was about to get taken down, they're like, "Oh my God, it's going to take like a miracle," and all of a sudden you see the light, and you just let's go, and just runs the hammer right in the middle. That's Gandalf, though. He just magically kind of appears.
Okay.
So, I think that's pretty cool, and I think there's some similarities there.
All right.
I don't know if you think there's some similarities there.
Oh, I think I got something for our audience.
If you're ready. I would hope so. I think so. Take it away. Right. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got to say.
All right, check this out, Theo. So, some of them are gonna be like, man, that's kind of weak. Okay, fine. But when you put them all together, like in a row, like that crazy chart where you're putting all those strings together and you're like, oh man, the serial killer's gonna strike here next. And sure enough, there he is, right? So when we connect all these facts, even the smaller ones, you may say, okay, maybe that wasn't a coincidence after all. So let's start with this. You mentioned that either he or one of his companions has a sword that can light up and know kind of where the goblin folk are, if they're close enough, right?
Yep.
Kind of close. Well, Moiraine, she doesn't carry a sword, and she kind of mocks that idea in a way, but she also knows that there are certain circumstances, if you will, where channeling the one power may not be necessary, and it may even be kind of like overdoing it, kind of like overshowing your hand. So she has a warder with her. Now, what is a warder? A warder is a warrior bound to Maureen's magical powers. So if she wanted him to go here, he goes here. If she says go there, he goes there. She wields him like a weapon, almost like her own sword, as it were.
Yes.
And as her sword, he gets some kind of benefits from this, and one of them, namely, is the dark creatures in Randland are referred to as shadow spawn, and she is able to imbue the warder with such powers that within a short distance, say a half a mile.
Wait.
He's able. Yes.
Big spoiler. Her warder is Lan, right?
Oh yeah, Lan the warder.
He's one of my favorite characters, y'all.
Oh yeah, Lan Mandragoran. And he is able, within about a half a mile, let's say, to sense the shadow spawn, where they are, point them out with his finger, as it were, almost as if he was some kind of sword lighting up, letting her know where the goblins were, for say. Only in this case, they're Trollocs and Murgrel. So, interesting that you said Gandalf carries around a staff, but we kind of get that image when we think about magicians and mages and
staff wand,
But where did that image really start? It really started with Tolkien, wouldn't you say?
Yep. Well, actually, it started like Old Norse. So, ironically, Gandalf's actual name kind of comes from, well, in theory, comes from Old Norse, meaning staff elf.
Oh, that's
staff
really cool.
dash elf.
Oh, so like wand elf Gandalf. All of that. Okay, all right, that's killer.
Yeah.
So check this out. Maureen's main weapon, as it were, is a staff as well. And although this is a wooden staff, she's able to parry blows from solid steel swords with it without the staff taking any damage, which is very reminiscent of Gandalf to me.
Well,
watching him use that staff in battle along with his sword. So her sword being land, and her staff being, well, her staff.
Her actual
Now,
weapon in hand.
yeah, and she's able to do certain things with the staff. Now, the staff itself does not embody any magical powers. In her own words, she uses it as a focus, kind of like something to kind of woo her
To channel
magical
her magic
essence
into something more powerful.
Yeah, kind of like not more powerful, but let's say more pointed. Like, it's just kind
Yeah.
of like think of it this way: you need to shoot the target, right?
Yep.
But you don't just aim at the target; you aim at the bullseye. So the staff is kind of like her bullseye, right? And
Her
it
sight.
allows her to do certain things with it. She at one point uses it as a blowtorch to like open up this epic door that should be basically indestructible. She sometimes illuminates the end of it, very reminiscent to Gandalf and his abilities. So now I'm gonna go back to something very specific that you said that I like very much. So at times, maybe when Gandalf kind of loses his temper, he's able to ambignify himself,
Right?
make himself look larger
Huge.
than he is in real life,
Booming voice.
with a nice Bilbo Baggins kind of thing
Yeah.
going on. So there is this very specific point in the Wheel of Time where the Fellowship, as it is, needs to flee from certain characters that we will call White Cloaks, because they're dirty children of the light that, well, they're not walking in the light like they think they are. And what does she do when they're in this situation? But she makes herself appear.
And by the way, Derek's not talking about the Fellowship of the Ring. He's talking to the Fellowship of Wheel of Time.
Oh, yes.
Making that delineation.
Interesting, though, that both of these sets of characters are spirited away in the middle of the night, leave their hometown, and forever are they changed. So, back to Wheel of Time, yes. The Wheel of Time Fellowship, as it were. They're in hot water, and Moiraine is able to use her channeling ability to make herself appear so large that she appears to step over the gate of this town, and her voice is so booming that the soldiers cower in terror. Now, that sounds a lot like Gandalf to me, don't you think, Theo?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's that's a 1-for-1, because to me that sounds identical.
For sure, for sure. So, check this out. You mentioned how Gandalf kind of shows up in the nick of time, or when trouble's brewing, he's
Yep.
there to kind of do the layup, and
Yeah.
oh,
Yep.
I'm gonna make this shot. Oh, it's off the rim. Nope, layup, boom, right?
Right.
So, Moiraine shows up to the Two Rivers, the home of Ran, the home of Matt, the home of Perrin, in the nick of time, literally the day before the Trolloc invasion happens. And if she hadn't just happened to be there, the town would have been overrun and destroyed. Everyone would have been killed.
Toast.
So now, it's not that the townspeople didn't do their own fair share, but they wouldn't have been enough. So she was there, and not only was she able to save the town, but she was able to heal Rand's father Tam, and again spirit these boys and a few young women, or woman at the time, and another woman joins them later, off into an adventure, and that's their fellowship. The Fellowship of the Wheel of Time would be Moiraine, Alan Mandragoran, Nynaeve Almir, Egwin Alver, Matrim Cawthon, Perrin Arbaya, Matrim Cawthon, and Rand Althor. And I'm sure I messed up real bad a couple names there.
Hey, we've
That's
said
fine.
we're not the best at pronunciation. We're
No,
good
no.
readers, but not in pronunciation land.
So that fellowship, right? Another parallel, wouldn't you say? You have these hobbits that are spirited away in the middle of the night. You have a very similar situation in Randland, right?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
The
So,
people and I would almost kind of also have a similarity of in Tolkien's Fellowship. It's a you had some hobbits, you had Gandalf, you had some humans, you had a dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
So it's people from, in this case, in an elf, through different races, different species, so to speak.
Okay.
I wouldn't say the Fellowship for the Wheel of Time is different species, because they're not all the same, but different genders, but also from like different backgrounds. Okay. Not everybody's the same background. They're all different.
Okay. So yeah. So, for example, you have Rand is like living on a farm.
Right.
He's a shepherd.
Right.
And then
parents a blacksmith.
Parents a blacksmith, and Matchroom kind of lives
day to
in
day.
town.
He's a townie.
Well, yeah, he's a townie, and he's a troublemaker. No, I like that. So let me jump back to what you said about. So now, as I recall, the Fellowship of the Rings, back to Lord of the Rings, they are in dire straits.
Yep.
And they need to take kind of like an out-of-the-way shortcut.
Yep. And
so they go to the mines of Moria. Now, this is just interesting because you mentioned that's where Gandalf meets his demise.
Correct.
And it's not the same, but it's Morai, Moria, and you have Moiraine, Moiraine. So those letters are there.
Yep.
It could be like,
transliterated,
okay, so kind of a literary kind of similarity there. But what's most interesting, I think you'll like this. So I'm gonna tie two locations together, and my premise of this expose, and not to prove anything, is to just say Morai was split, Khazad-dûm was split in two locations. So number one, Moiraine leads the heroes to this ancient kind of ghost city that used to be referred to as Eredal, which was like the number 2 city during the second consolidation or the second covenant of Randland after the breaking of the world. And this city was so amazing that it was kind of considered to be like the thorn in the Dark One's foot, so to speak. Meaning that they really held out a stronghold against the Shadow Spawn and their armies.
Okay. So I know where you're going with this.
What's interesting is it eventually became known as Shadar Lagoth, where the shadow waits. So it went from being this beautiful, wonderful, amazing place, or an amazing, prosperous mine, town, to becoming a desolate, empty ghost town, known to be where darkness is. In other words, it had been completely corrupted, much like Moria had been corrupted.
Right.
Now, all the doubters and haters out there are gonna be like, "Oh, it's not a mine. It's not underground. It's just a town." Okay, fine. We'll get to that. But Shadar Lagoth, as it became known, where the shadow waits, is inhabited by this terrible creature, Mashadar. And Mashadar is actually going to tie this bow together in a knot, okay? Because Mashadar is this tenderly smoky, foggy kind of beast that just by touch it's kind of able to like kill and eat in a way kind of whatever it touches. So
freaky.
Meanwhile, the greed of the dwarfs brought upon the Belrog. The corruption of Eredal brought on the Mashadar. So here's where I'm going to tie it together. Later on in the series, Moiraine says in desperation, "The only way we're getting out of here is through the ways. A shortcut." Literally a shortcut where time and space are different than in the regular Randland world. And she leads the heroes through the ways, which is an ancient, abandoned system. Kind of like those tubes at the bank. If y'all remember going to the bank physically, shoot the tubes. So she's like, we need to go through here. Now, what's interesting is, just like Gandalf was able to figure out how to get into the mines of Moria, Moiraine knows the secret into opening up the door to the ways, which in Randland is not saying friend in Dwarvish, or whatever. It's moving this trifoil leaf down into a certain position. And the bizarre thing is, it looks like all stonework, but part of the stonework you can move down on the somehow through a different position, and that unlocks it. And guess what? Here's where I'm going to tie it together for y'all. Waiting in these corrupted ways, again corrupted, is something called Machen Shen. What is Machen Shen? It's the black wind. The black wind devours everything and anything in its path. Very similar to the Mashadar that you find in Shadar Goth. Wouldn't you say?
Yep.
Definitely. So it's
Different, but
almost
the
as if-
same. Yeah.
Right, it's almost as if these are two of the same,
Type.
two sides of the same coin, so
Yeah.
to speak. Like almost as if Robert Jordan is like teasing us, like a strip tease. It's like, you want to see more, but you know where the goods are, and the
Yep.
goods are the mines of Moria. So the heroes have to go through these two places, one of which isn't a shortcut, it's like a hiding place, but the other is definitely a shortcut. One is an old town that's been corrupted, and the other is literally an underground kind of place that is a literal shortcut. So it seems to me very much like a Mines of Moria parallel here. So
I would think so.
yeah. So here's some fun kind of silly facts that everyone might like. So Gandalf, you mentioned, is exceedingly tall.
I would think, yeah.
Probably even tall for a human.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Technically, he's
So-
not human, but that's okay.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, kind of maybe as like a joke, Moiraine is exceedingly short. Like
Opposite.
really short, like Hobbit short. Yeah. So it's almost like, it's like, all right, Maureen's a Hobbit. Not really, but like, it's kind of funny, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say? Like,
Oh, yeah, it's like an oxymoron. Like
Right,
if we're comparing her to Gandalf, the super tall dude who can make himself gargantuan to this
yeah,
short little girl woman,
yeah,
and then she can also make herself super
Massively
tall, like
tall.
giant, like Ant-Man.
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of interesting parallel and an interesting juxtaposition, so to speak. Like, I don't want this to be too close to the nose. I'm gonna change something up in some bizarre way. So, what I like is how Gandalf is kind of a jokey guy, like you said, but he also does he stand up for nonsense?
Definitely not when he's Gandalf the White.
Definitely not when he's Gandalf the White, but even when he's Gandalf the Grey.
Not really. Not if you're being like too ridiculous. He likes to do his thing, but you still gotta be on task. He just likes to waver a little bit.
He calls
I
someone
have a little
fool.
fun.
He calls someone a fool.
I
right?
mean, yeah,
Like,
that's true.
Yeah. So check this out. Maureen likes to call everyone child.
I mean, she
calls
old.
She doesn't care. Well, but she doesn't look it. Okay.
No.
And she doesn't care if you're like the village wisdom or literally a child. She'll call you a child. And boy, does she like to call everyone foolish. Like, she does not really have time for all that.
She is
So
kind of
sweet.
savage on that part.
Yeah. She's like, what? Do you have something to say? Okay. Not really? Okay, I don't have time. Bye. So, so that's Maureen.
I
And
have
that's
more important
also
things to
Gandalf.
do.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna jump to kind of like one of the bigger ones here, and it has to do with Gandalf the Grey fighting the Balrog off. None shall pass, falling into the darkness, right,
Mm-hmm.
with the Balrog, and then eventually through some unknown process, emerging as Gandalf the White. So I'm gonna just posit here that I think specifically Robert Jordan did not like how Tolkien just didn't fill us in on how the heck Gandalf the Grey became Gandalf the White. So I think he made a correction here. So here goes. Maureen literally saves the Fellowship, so to speak, of Rainland by taking out one of the biggest baddies of badness, Landfear. One of the biggest women in the series, one of the baddest badasses in the series. Lanfear, Selene, possibly the Moon. She is savage.
Should
She
be on.
is she is jealous, and I don't mean, oh, I'm so jealous of my man cheating on me. No, I mean she is jealous of people not worshiping her. She thinks she needs to be the number one top gun.
Yep.
So Moiraine, when Lanfear is otherwise occupied, rips her into this portal, and they fall, much like Gandalf and the Balrog fall. She saves the Fellowship, much like Gandalf saved the Fellowship, and in so, apparently sacrificing her life. Now, what do we find? Eventually, and I mean in the last book.
Big spoiler, y'all.
Big spoiler. Turn this off if you're worried about that. Moiraine comes back. And when she comes back, she's different. She's totally changed. For one, the place where she was kind of weakened her immensely, but at the same time, they gave her a go-go gadget gizmo to make her stronger than she ever was, even in her weakened state. So as long as she wears this particular item, she is immensely powerful. And at this point, Moiraine has learned so much, and she has become so knowledgeable, that she's basically like, it's time for the last battle. It's time to put the pieces in motion. It's time to go for the chess gambit, the queen's gambit. It's time to go for check and mate. We don't have time to check our lunches that we packed. I assume it's PB&J. I don't care. It's time to go. So at that point, she's kind of like a Zen Moiraine. And she is ready to form the final circle with Rand and co. to fight and vanquish, hopefully, the Dark One. So, what do you think, man? You have this character that spirits away the Fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
She takes them through these secret, dark underworld shortcuts.
Passages. Yep.
She falls into the eternal abyss
Learns.
to save the Fellowship.
Learns crazy amount of knowledge in the meantime.
I mean, man, all that's missing is Moiraine saying, "Fly, fools."
Pretty much.
She comes back. She's in a different mode of thinking.
Yep.
And she's ready for the end game. Like, she's ready for that last I am Iron Man snap, so to speak.
Yeah.
What do you think, man?
I mean, I think we laid out some hella good points. And I definitely think that Gandalf definitely could have been something that Robert Jordan used, or a literary character that Robert Jordan used as part of Moraine's background, and I think he developed that into her being, so to speak. There's a lot of similarities. She's got more than just him, but that's not what we're saying. That none of our things are one for one. They're all little snippets here and there. So. Yeah. I think with the points that we made with Gandalf, I think that are very similar to Moiraine.
Well, and I wanna lay this down. This is not my expertise. So you can shoot this down.
Go for it.
Now, this is a quick yes or no, and then I have something for you. I have heard it said that Gandalf, the Grey, was supposed to be inspired kind of by Odin.
Right.
Okay. Well, Odin has a lot of names, and he's not
his list
always
is like
in the best light.
No.
So check this out, man. Maureen's last name is Demadred. Okay? So, Odin, being an old man, being dreaded, kind of the figure of damnation in a way. Demadred sounds a lot like damn old dread.
Yep.
Kind of neat, okay? So
just saying.
So it's kind of like, okay, all right, Moiraine, Gandalf, Odin, kind of even
knowledge.
Not right, and maybe not specifically Odin, but that could be kind of just a nod to the syncretism that Tolkien used.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, if you want to think about Odin poking that eye out, it was all for knowledge, right?
Oh, for sure.
So he made a sacrifice for knowledge.
Yeah.
Gandalf kind of made a sacrifice for the Fellowship, got knowledge out of it. Moiraine did the same thing.
Nice.
Just saying.
And
Maybe.
I got one more. Yeah, I got one more bonus for you.
Ooh, go for it.
So you kind of say Gandalf the Grey is Mr. Adventure, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He likes to have his fun.
So there are these things called Ajats in the Wheel of Time for the Aes Sedai. And it's 7 different colors. So there's the yellow Aja, the red Aja, the green Aja, the blue Aja, the gray Aja, the brown Aja, and finally the white Aja. And some would say there's a secret 8th Aja called Black Aja, but we're going to leave that for another time.
What?
Right. So check this out. Derek, is Moiraine the Grey Aja? No. That would be too on the nose. Robert Jordan's way too smart for that. She's the blue Aja. Now, here's the thing, though.
What are the blue Aja?
What are the blue Aja? Exactly. That's the question.
Bro?
They're the adventure Aja.
Hey.
Yeah, they're the questing Aja, just like Gandalf is Mr. Quest, Mr. Adventure. So that's the bonus tidbit I have. That's pretty much all I got. But like you said, there seems to be a lot of parallels there. And I'll let you take us out of this episode, my friend.
All right, y'all. That will conclude episode 6 of the Heels of Time. And very much enjoyed it, y'all. And sorry we're a little late today, but like I said, it's not always going to be perfect 4 o'clock. Sorry. But please join us next week at our regular time and day, which is Sunday at 4 o'clock p.m. And in the meantime, have a great week. Have a great holiday tomorrow. And this is Theo signing off.
This is Derek. And remember, we are the Heels of Time.
I was going to say, and Derek was supposed to say, and I'm Derek also signing off, but that's okay. I'll do that for him. All right, guys. Have a great rest of the evening.